This is the A to Z Podcast. I'm Zach Jackson. He's Andre Knott. A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. Shout out, as always, to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks for helping to make this happen, to you guys for helping this thing grow. We get excited. We venture into mature/immature subjects, and we sometimes say four-letter words. So if any of those things aren't for you, if there's kids around or if you're in a work environment, put on your earbuds or come back at another time. We don't want anyone to get in trouble for listening to A to Z. We got some things to talk about. We shouldn't throw parades, but you should be excited about what Baker Mayfield did on Sunday. But I just want to start with two things, Dre. We're going to make this a Zach Smith-free podcast. The guy's an idiot. It's entertaining to an extent. Him going on Dockage on Tuesday has all-time train wreck potential, but I don't think anybody benefits from talking about it now. We'll also make this a Hugh Jackson-free podcast, speaking of all-timers, and we will go forward. But first, good morning. How was your day?
Good afternoon. My day's been all right. I don't know how my voice will go throughout this. I haven't said a lot since Saturday night. But you've said enough about the former coaches that coached within Ohio. The Dockage thing and everything. I will say this. This is all I got to say about Zach Smith. I think this is a small glimpse into a weird world that a lot of people don't ever want to go into. And it just shows you just how united most coaching staffs and most coaches are as a people, that you never see stuff like this happen. Because Zach Smith doesn't realize he's really showing his true self more than anything else.
Yeah.
And that's what social media will do to you. That's what social media will do to you. And there were lines when he was a so-called coach that you could read his tweets and you would cringe, and you realize that human being's been off the tracks for a long time.
Right. Hey, when the dust settles on this and just on us, not having pressing football or other matters to talk, there is a social media in the world lesson to be involved here too, right? A larger discussion, I should say. So we will note that. So life's good. It's the bye week. I have a Buffalo basketball game on in the other window as we talk. I have a claw in my other hand, and we're good. So, but I want to lead with this. I want to ask you, football-wise, before we dive into the Browns and locally, because Ohio State showed me good and bad in Michigan State. And obviously the big game, the one that really matters, is getting closer and closer. NFL, let's go NFC and AFC. Let's start in the NFC. We don't know what the bracket is going to be, and we obviously know that a week before Thanksgiving in the past, you've had teams that haven't even revved up yet go on to win the Super Bowl, right? You've had teams that look like they're going to win the Super Bowl fall off. One team you don't want to play in the NFC.
In the NFC, New Orleans.
Yeah, that's my answer too. That's the one I absolutely don't want to play. How about in the AFC?
But that takes away from the Rams, and that's not fair.
I understand. And I don't want to fight Aaron Donald. Did you see the end of that game, by the way?
Hell no. But that's the problem. He doesn't do that until the end of the game. Like, he's just like, they're deep. To have him and Sue, and I know Sue was in Sue from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but to have those two in the middle and just offenses do whatever they want half the game until they care, that pisses me off and bothers me, and why I say New Orleans over the Rams. But that's going to be a hell of an NFC championship game. It'll be 80 points scored, and everybody will forget that people get headaches sometimes when they play that game. Right. AFC, I want to say New England, but I can't say New England. Kansas City's defense is an issue. It is. It'd be funny. I want to say so bad, but I don't want to play Tennessee, because I think the last 2 weeks of what I've seen has been unbelievable. But I'll take Kansas City, because I think if they're playing at Arrowhead, and the way they can go up and down the field, it'd be scary. But you know what? You could also say the Steelers.
Well, year after year, we've been reminded that you're an idiot if you pick against New England, right? Because even when they don't get there, they get to the AFC Championship game. And every year you look at games in September, October, and November, and you say, well, Brady looks old. Well, this is the year he doesn't have the cast. Well, this is the year this slow defense bites them. And every year they're there. And when they get there, they get harder to beat. And every year you can make a case for the Chargers, and then some goofy shit happens, whether it's the kicker or some star player gets hurt or whatever.
Right.
And obviously the Chiefs have a ton of talent. And if the Chiefs get Arrowhead, They are going to be tough. But I think as great as Mahomes is, a rookie combined with the burden that Andy Reid is carrying, my answer right now to this question, I didn't put but fives. I didn't hesitate is what I should say, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. Did you see Thursday night?
Oh, and Carolina's good.
Yeah, Carolina's a really good team. They dismantled.
And they ridiculously beat them apart, took them apart. And the way that they've handled – and see, this is one of those things, one of those outside stories that ends up being – this is why the Steelers are the Steelers. And I'm glad you brought them up, and people are going to hate the next, 2 minutes of this conversation, but that's okay. You hate me anyway. Heck, I don't like me all the time either. The Steelers and the way that they play, and now having this story, the side story of what happened with Le'Veon Bell, that's just brought a clubhouse together that every year we all in September go, oh, man, I didn't do it. I remember you can go back to our podcast in September, and I was like, y'all keep making fun of the Steelers. They're going to go back and kick your ass. I think we were on a thread together with Browns fans that were attacking the one Steeler fan and I was the one guy that was like, hey, stop talking to the Steeler fan. You don't have anything to say to them. They got 18 million. They're as much as we give the brand in New England, the heavyweight champion belt, what they do in Pittsburgh every year is amazing. And for all those people that were clapping at Tomlin at the beginning of the year, I read Peter King this morning, and that blew me away, that out of the three coaches that we know of the Steelers having, Chuck Noll, obviously the guy's going to buy a house in Strongsville in a couple of weeks because he's got to get ready for
another one.
Yeah. He's got a whole block in Streetsboro. It's right there, right? Mike Tomlin? Mike Tomlin has the highest win percentage out of those three Pittsburgh Steelers coaches. And people still, in this day and age, if you lose 2 games in a row or there's some static, they want to jump your shit and not let work out. This is the best coach in and they're one of the best franchises ever. It's amazing what they do every year, and I'll tell you, I won't be surprised if they're not playing in the last AFC game of the year. I'll say that.
Yeah, and last year, the defense started to get exposed, and they ran out of gas. I mean, Jacksonville kicked their ass, and it was convincing, right?
Yeah.
But people forget that the catch rule that's since been clarified, they beat the Patriots without the old catch rule that wasn't really a rule. It was made up as it goes, and then the AFC runs through Pittsburgh and not through Foxborough. So, and I have seen a team that dicked around in September, that had drama, that negatively was affected by the drama, that now I think has turned it into a positive force and is finding itself at the right time. Now, that being said, it's a long way. For everybody, it's a long way to the finish. If you're at the bottom, it's a long way to the finish. I think Browns fans are now more excited about the finish, as they should be. After really one of the most impressive wins in years, and we'll get there. This is a little bit tricky because this is Monday evening as we record this, and Tuesday, 4 p.m. is the Le'Veon Bell deadline. I think it's important to talk about this, not just because it's a rival, but this is a sports thing. This is becoming more prevalent. Le'Veon Bell is a major character in the NFL. He is one of the 5 most dynamic players in the NFL. Even if he had sat out 35% of the season, he still would have been the highest paid running back in the league, but we know those guys are replaceable. You've seen that if you've watched the Steelers. We know that they have a short shelf life, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, Dre, I have mixed feelings on this, and we don't know the result, even though it appears that he's not going to show, right? So I guess unless you have a differing take on that, for this conversation, we'll go with he's not going to show. I understand to an extent his situation.
Regardless.
Well, here, let me finish here. I understand his situation and his thinking to an extent. But most people that I trust that would advise me if I was ever in a situation to 25% of that extent would say, even if you're doing something smart, how fucking smart is it ever to walk away from $14 million?
Right. And I mean, and that's, and that's the battle back towards it. I can't fight for it any other way because I don't think anyone understands walking away from $14 million. Anyone. I don't know there's a soul on this earth that would say it was the right thing to do. And he's never going to get it back. That's the thing. But if you're for standing up for something and you can afford, and he can't afford with the money he's made in the last few years, to make a stand, go ahead, make a stand. And if it makes you feel better, great. But it doesn't make you come off as anything but an individual. And the guy is supremely talented. And you're right, this is a sports thing, and I think this is our era type thing. I think we have people that want to stand up for whatever they feel is right, and it's hard to talk them out of it. And I guess the world has always been that way. I just personally don't understand what Le'Veon Bell achieved. And I think the one thing that everyone should say, okay, it's great he's standing up for players. He's great he's standing up for what he thinks is his worth. Knock. I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again. None of us on planet Earth get paid what we think we're worth. Not one of us. None of us. There's maybe 5 people on Earth that think they get truly paid what they truly deserve. But because that's naturally, if you have a job of any sort or a career of any sort, you're always going to want more, I would think. Okay, he's made a stand. But what we really go back to, and I hope kids understand this, no matter how great an individual is in a sport like football, you still need to have a great team around you to win. And maybe a game or two they've missed them, but because of this drama for the last 2 years, it hasn't affected them. It's made them better. They've got a kid that can, I really believe that's going to be part of the storyline. And I think it's weird. Just as weird to say that is just as weird as seeing all the New Orleans highlights yesterday and seeing every damn Saint, and they scored all 50 of them against Cincinnati. This plays in something else I want to say, 52. I think they put a 50 burger on them. And all those guys raising up and giving love to a receiver that was there 48 hours and blew out his Achilles, and they're all throwing up X.
Yeah.
And it just shows, as somebody said to me, it just shows you the effect of leadership and the effect of team. And having this sense of team, even though we all know the nutcase that went in there, and nothing against him, he blows his Achilles out. That sucks. But to see how a team gathers around that, just like the Steelers are gathering around, you don't want to be here? Fine. We'll go out and kick ass without you. We don't want you here. And it's good luck in free agency, Le'Veon. It's been kind of interesting to watch. And I believe it or not, just let me put this stem in there as I was talking about the Saints, and then we can get into this. Might walk you into Browns talk. I did not think I would say this in 2018, but as we talk about the AFC and talk about the NFC, the best thing out of this conversation may be, and this is the bye week and there's still games to be played, I don't think the worst team in Ohio is in Cleveland right now. The Bengals have just fallen face first, setting up for the other coach that we're not allowed to talk about on this podcast to get a job, and you know he will. The Bengals just look like their defensive line is too talented to give up 500 yards a week.
Yeah.
And they are. They've got bad quick.
Let me ask you this, though. You're right. Le'Veon thinks he can afford it, right? And he's made a ton of money.
Right.
And for those who say this will affect his free agency, this will affect the perception of him going into free agency. This will drive a lot of external discussion around his free agency. We know he's going to get paid a lot of money by somebody, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because teams have money to spend, and he's a dynamic player. What ends up happening now that he can get transition tagged by staying away? Who really wants him? I don't know. He's going to get a lot of money, but here's my question. Yes, he's got a lot of money. He can afford this. But by doing this, he's acknowledging that he's got, say, 2.5 to 5 seasons of making this crazy kind of money left, right?
Right.
So I just don't understand pissing one away at a guaranteed 14. Because, Dre, he's looking at a deal where he's going to sign – his guarantee over 3 years is only going to be a little more than 14. I mean, he's going to have a chance to make 40. But it's insane.
No, but he should have a guarantee. He should be able to get a signing bonus of worth 35 to 40 mil, is what I read this morning. That's what he's banking on. But he still is going to have lost $14 million. Regardless.
I got a hard time believing he's going to get 40 guaranteed. I think he's going to get 40, and 20-ish of it is going to be guaranteed.
We'll see. I disagree. And the reason I would say so, we'll see. And who knows? All it takes is one team. All it takes is the New York Jets begging for someone to believe in them and to get the back page. It's all it takes. It's all it takes is one. I mean, think about what the total. What was the total that the Kirk Cousins had? Imagine that Kirk Cousins got a total of 80 guaranteed, right?
He got 80 guaranteed.
All right, I'm just going off the top. Bell's going to get half of that guaranteed. He's going to get 40 guaranteed.
I don't think
so. He won't get that much, but that's what we haven't seen it. They've got to do it with the running back sooner or later. And all it takes is one team.
Devontae Freeman is the second highest paid back and makes 8 point something, right?
Right. But what was the signing bonus on the contract?
I mean, it seems like a lot of work for me to Google that right now, but I can tell you it wasn't.
I agree.
I can tell you it was not in the neighborhood of 40 guaranteed, because that'd be like 5 guaranteed seasons, and nobody's giving that to a running back. Only quarterbacks.
Right. You know what hurts about that is, as we talk about that, he's a dynamic back. He's not even out there playing.
Right. He's hurt, and when he plays as part of a committee. I mean, he's the lead guy, But yes.
Yeah. But he's not. Yeah. But see, look, we sound like Le'Veon. And this is part of, and this is a great conversation. We didn't set this up because we are not intelligent enough to do that. You should know that about us. But this is the battle in a room about what is Le'Veon Bell's worth.
Sure. No, you're right. You're right. And listen,
we were both
to the Colts and the Jets, he's worth a shit ton of guaranteed money. We agree on that, 100%.
Yes.
And maybe teams left out of that. It's just going to be real interesting because this was an interesting way to go about it. And then it comes to this whole thing of team versus me.
Let me do this real quick.
Okay.
Right. Freeman. You're right. This is why I'm giving it to you. Two-time Pro Bowl running back, agreed to a 5-year contract extension. The deal was worth $41.25 million, included $15 million signing bonus. Only $22 million of it was guaranteed. So off of that, you are correct in saying running backs don't get paid shit in comparison to everybody else.
Comparatively, right? And obviously, yes.
Compared to their peers is all I'm saying.
Well, this is a thing too because I left this out initially when I was laying out, what he is and the situation that he's in. Pittsburgh is one of those real special NFL cities, and obviously it's tied to their success. But the other thing too, when you don't go down this road and cause this divorce, when you're a Steeler for life, especially if you can get a ring, you know what that's like for the rest of your life, Trey? It means a lot. It means a lot financially and just for the rest of your life. And like with what's going on with Carmelo now, and we don't have time to get into it, and frankly, I want to let the dust settle on it. I mean, he's always going to be remembered as a me-first guy who forced his way to New York and played for shitty teams and either took more money to go there and stay there, right? I think it was both in two different cases. Right. So what's going on now, to some people say it's not a surprise. Those people are right. Some people say, hey, he has had a great career, and he's an incredible scorer. He's had a great career. He is what he is now, and the Rockets, who have a glaring weakness, defense, thought that another me-first scorer would work there. I'm not going there. But Carmelo is always going to be remembered as selfish. And I think now, Le'Veon Bell, this is the NFL. Selfish. Who's to say he's not going to be on a Super Bowl champ 2 or 3 years from now? But the Steelers could win the Super Bowl this year and have been a Super Bowl team ever since he became a breakout star, a Super Bowl type team. And he's willing to walk away from them for his own personal gain. And, it comes out that he's only 53 guys in the locker room. He's only been in touch with James Conner, hasn't talked to the GM, the coach, walking away from all that. Man, I think 10 years from now, this story will say Le'Veon Bell was a moron in the way he handled this. That's what I think.
I think most people are going to see it, though. Even if he gets $100 million guaranteed, he won't. It's just a bonehead because you just hit on the biggest thing that most fans care about. And it's hard sometimes to get caught up in being a fan and thinking about the business of it. What sucks as a fan for me is I love watching that guy run. I'm not a Steelers fan, but I've appreciated his style. And look, that's all a fan wants. We don't give a shit how much money you can get one place or another. Just show up every Sunday and play for the team. And like for me, I'm not a Steelers fan, but I appreciate him as a player. And it's like when my kids ask me now, like when I have a random basketball game, well, my kids aren't old enough to understand that Dad's just watching random basketball game because he likes to see the basketball game or random football game. Like the Rams game this weekend in Seattle was on. And my daughter's like, well, who are you rooting for? And I had nothing. I was just like, and like it's hard to explain to a 5-year-old, like when you usually have a team you're going for.
Yeah, Bella, just go get me another beer. Leave Daddy alone.
Right. No, not yesterday. Daddy was way too 40 years old and hurting. Yesterday for that. But that's the thing. Like, we love the sport, man, and nobody wants the image of him on a side note. And I think I realized this during the whole Kaepernick thing, that everyone watches football, but everyone isn't into the details, like myself or like you.
Right.
Like, where we know every little thing about it. Like, and it taught me in that time frame, it's very easy to get framed as selfish or a great leader or a jackass. Like, like somebody that sees a Michael Thomas touchdown 2 weeks ago, and they don't really – it could have been a little selfish. It could have been a little childish. But it was great for the overall aspect of the game and the reaction, and he got away with it. It wasn't a penalty. I know that because I know the whole story. But, like, I had people come to me like, what an asshole. Why would you pull a phone out? And I'm thinking, that was the best thing of the weekend.
Right. Well, that is the thing. I mean, these athletes have bigger personal brands than ever before because it's in people's hands all the time, right? And they're making more money than ever before. They are more recognizable than ever before. But it still comes down to, I think, especially in football, the team concept. Now, that's not to just say it's just there, because for as loaded as Golden State is, absurdly loaded. I mean, those guys have bought into the team concept, right? And that's not the only example, but they're like, I was having this argument earlier with someone talking about college football. I was like, look, I guess Ohio State, Michigan's still exciting, and it is. But this is the Alabama Invitational. Like, they're Golden State on steroids, right? Like, no one's going to beat them. And you can have an argument. Does that take away from anything? I think in certain places, I think when it's your team, it's your alma mater, it's your kid plan, it doesn't matter. But I think overall, the general college football viewer is saying, well, Ohio State's not all that good, and Notre Dame's undefeated, and that doesn't really excite me. And Alabama kicks the shit out of everybody every week, so, like, what am I really excited about, right? The Weed Eater Bowl?
Right. Yeah. And the amazing thing is for Notre Dame, like, if you'd have said that 2 decades ago, like, that they're undefeated and it's middle of November, they're top 5, like, that would make the most of the country go nuts. But because they don't have a star player, and just because it's Alabama's world right now, like, this is the first time in my lifetime that Notre Dame being good does not really do anything for anyone. Don't you find that a little awkward and weird?
It is, but I think it's because everybody knows that if Notre Dame plays Alabama, the spread's 24, right? I think that's just what it is. I could be wrong.
No doubt. But, no, you're right. But think about the Duke basketball team premiering last week and just the unbelievable, unbridled excitement that we have towards that. And even for me, seeing Jalen Rose talk about it the next day, and obviously the first comparison everyone wants to make is, what do you think what the Fab Five would have done against that? And for me, I'm thinking, hey, that's sacrilegious. We don't talk about the Fab Five, but the guy that was in the Fab Five is like, this is tremendous. Mm-hmm. It's a weird state of sports right now. And think about it, Duke. We all think the Final Four is going to be Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, probably, or somebody like that. And then you can name me you can get lucky with 2 or 3 other names. But we're going to watch it. And we're going to be into it. The NFL, we're pretty sure we know the last 4 teams right now, right? You already said Golden State. You already said Golden State, but with this trade now, and everybody's saying now the East is tougher than the West. Y'all better calm down. Do y'all really watch basketball? I see people say stuff like that on Twitter. I'm like, do you really watch the games? Do you know Denver will smack most of the East if they get to play them every night? Do you know Sacramento's been a bitch for the first month of the season, and they will be like a 5-4 seed in the East. I know there's 3 good. Boston's really good. Hey, Utah's a good. I can just go to the West.
Well, you can get excited about the East. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not in the same. They're not in the same zip code yet. Philly is good. Boston is good. Toronto is good. All 3 are legitimate teams. But come on, man, I can name 9 teams in the West easily that to me are at least right with those teams.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
So, let's calm down. The East is caught up with the West thing. And, LeBron still got to – Portland is a quality team that has to bang every night. I can just go through all those names. But I just find it funny, but that's a good thing. It's the interest of sports is great. The storylines change. And the Cleveland's got the best – and look, this is awesome to go into a bye week for the Browns and Browns fans. Having a game like that, Baker Mayfield was tremendous. Nick Chubb was unbelievable. The big names, the guys that were drafted by John Dorsey, are doing their thing, which is great. And I can finally call Hollywood. I never was going to call that man that, but he ain't caught some balls, and he's actually using in Madden now. So Hollywood, welcome to the team. I wish somebody would bring this up. That was a great win for the Browns. I'm not being a hater, but Atlanta fucking sucks.
Well, they were bad. They were bad.
They sleptwalked their son. They played how I felt. They were inside the 5
Well, I would say this
9 times.
Yeah, their game management was positively Cornelian, a little bit Hueyan, that's for sure. Their motivation level wasn't real good. But I'll say this: I felt like even if Sanu doesn't fumble there in the third quarter, I felt like the Browns were going to get more touchdowns if they needed. And I think you should all be excited about that extra gear that Chubb showed on that run. And he had some cuts early. We know he's a big back who knows how to square his shoulders and has a certain level of acceleration that's pretty special. But he showed a couple things that we really hadn't seen, at least not except in glimpses, as he just chewed up a defense that wanted no part of him. Yeah. That's for sure.
Chubb is a star. Chubb is a star.
Yes.
And let's go back. And this is I texted that to you guys last night. I waited till the end of the night. It's not because of the 90-yard run. His best run was where he had 2 jump cuts behind the line of scrimmage and still scampered to the left for 10 yards. That to me was a phenomenal run, and to be that big and have those feet, he's got a chance to be special. Right. But let's go back to the draft and think about how many people, even though they got Baker Mayfield, and this isn't pointing fingers. None of us know how the draft works, but I love this aspect of it. Everybody wanted Barkley really bad. Barkley is shown to be a very, very good running back. He's got some, but do you really see that much of it now that we're into November? Do you see that much difference between what Barkley and Chubb can give you offensively if used the right way?
And Chubb has a long way to go as a pass catcher, but you're right. No, there's not a lot.
But you can get past that. Yeah, but you can get past. Look, he's going to have to catch the ball more. He's going to have to pass a lot better. I'm not anointing him.
Look, they're all rookies and in different circumstances. But I would say this:
Barkley
get excited.
Don't block either.
Dorsey's not perfect and hasn't been, but get excited because the 3 backs they loved were Barkley, Penny, who now, even though he's in a tough situation and had an injury, he's starting to run his ass off.
Yeah.
And Chubb, who needed to learn, was clearly running with no confidence early, and still has all these guys, especially at these positions where you touch the ball. And, they're rookies, right? But you see special qualities from those guys, and Nick Chubb showed them. And eventually the Browns – I'm glad you brought up Hollywood, because eventually the Browns will get to the point where they're not counting on Hollywood Higgins. This team needs him. And we could gush over Baker, and he was awesome. Here's the important thing. They're going into a coaching search where they're holding a big chip because coaches really are going to want that quarterback. And he's got a long way to go, and it's not all going to be that good, but damn, that was good. And 2 plays stick out to me. Two plays really stick out. One, the balls and the execution of standing at your own goal line, calling a pass there. He gets out and throws a fucking dart to Callaway, puts it right where he can't help but catch it. The kid catches it, knows where to go, how to secure it, protect himself, and get the first down. And the other one, I think it was earlier in the game. But David Njoku, don't know if he's going to catch the ball or not. But one way to make sure he catches it is to fucking surgically insert it into his abdomen. Was that throw like nothing you've ever seen?
Unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, it was phenomenal, man. That was a fun. But you know what? That's the next step. Where you win games at home because you're at home and you play the game the right way, and you've got a quarterback that understands how to play the right way. I thought it was good, but when people do things right, I give them credit. Greg Williams, I think, and I hate, I wasn't there for it, but whatever he told the quarterback went out and did that when he said to cut it loose. That's a sign of what. This isn't putting down anybody. This is just crediting when you see some good coaching work. One of my favorite coaches of all time always told me, no, you don't coach everyone differently because we need different things from you guys. And you guys are different individuals. So I'm going to talk to you guys all differently because I understand what it takes. And this coach would not yell at me throughout the week. On game day, he would scream in my face and just try to embarrass me because he knew that would piss me off, and I played better that way. He would yell and cuss at other guys all week long, but he would be low-key on game day because he knew on game day some kids didn't react well to that, and they wouldn't play well. I think Greg Williams, I see that in this moment where he don't like quarterbacks. He tries to kill them all year long. But he understands with that kid that he has, this jewel that you said, going to make everyone in the country want this job. He tells him, go out and play. Go be Baker Mayfield. Go out and take some shots. And the kid goes out, amazing. But the other thing, when we talk about the two running backs, another reason Le'Veon Bell won't get that $40 million guaranteed. You can go find one of those guys. And unfortunately, and I love running backs, think about how many good running backs you find. Keeping them healthy is the key. There are great running backs everywhere, and every year you find them. I don't know if they're maybe like Barkley and Chubb, but another reason why it's going to be hard for a team to give $30-40 million in guaranteed money to Le'Veon Bell, and he just walked away from 14.
Look, Mayfield and Chubb is exciting. The most important thing is the quarterback. You can find a running back to play with him, right?
Right.
You still need to run in big NFL games. You still need to run. You need to achieve some sort of balance. You need to keep defenses off the field. You need to win in short yardage, which the Falcons didn't do and the Browns did. But the quarterback is the thing. It's a passing league. It's a quarterback's league more than anything else. And the kid is showing great progress. A lot of people, mostly people who have been known for decades now to victory lap 1 win and 4 win seasons, say, Zach, you picked the Browns to maybe not win another game. I did say that. I'm not sure how it will go. I would say I'm really impressed by Greg Williams, Freddie Kitchens, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, the way they circled the wagons and delivered. And we'll see. It was an exciting offense. As I wrote, there's a fine line between creativity and stupidity. They were aggressive. They attacked in different ways, and they clearly played with confidence. And that is the most important thing. They're not making a late playoff run. They're not going to make Greg Williams the head coach, so stop that shit. The most important thing is that Baker, they're not all going to be that good. I don't think, anyway. Plays, gets the experiences, sees the different things, continues to develop rapport with these young receivers who are going to be here, and goes into next season understanding what he has to do and is able to go on those things. I mean, I think one of the things we all learned early in the year is the Browns were clearly better and more competitive is that these games come down to the wire, and it comes down to the little things. The getting 7 instead of 3, the not committing the penalties, the being able to drive, whether it's responding or giving your defense a break 80 yards, 75 yards, and they've been able to do that. And then to win a game where you don't have to come down to the nail-biting last 30 seconds, that's a huge step. And the culture thing, that's what can carry over is when you've done that, when you finally have put a team away and it's not total Puckerville coming down the stretch. So really outstanding. My hat's off to all those guys I just named for big-time performances. Joe Schobert makes a difference, right? Browns stepped up. Falcons didn't, and the Browns deserve to enjoy this bye week. And the addition of that clown on the Cincinnati staff makes the next game 13 days from now all that more interesting. Speaking of clowns, a bunch of them came to the Barley House for Andre's wife's event on Saturday. I was one of them. A bunch of you listeners were there. We appreciate all. We had a great time, the parts we remember anyway. And as we close this podcast, Andre wants to give a thanks to all of you guys.
I couldn't say thank you enough to everyone that showed up, especially everyone that volunteered their time. I got a Zach story on this, and I got to close with it. But I would say every person's name, and every one of them matters because they do. But I know if I missed one, I'd feel even worse about that. But thank you to anyone that's ever listened to the podcast that came out. It's really cool when you guys come out to something like that and say something. Thanks to Kim that works with my wife, hangs with, and she's just tremendous. And getting the group of people that are her Indians Twitter friends to get them all out. It's just it's really cool to watch. It's really appreciated. Unlike anything else. It was shout out to Josh Cribbs. If you listen to our last podcast, I'm not going to tell this. This is how we're going to make you listen. If you didn't listen to our last podcast, go listen to the end of the podcast, what Zach Jackson had to say about the future of Josh Cribbs showing up to the event. He did. Just go back to that and tweet us, and we'll talk about it then. Josh Tomlin was grade A. Awesome sport at this. He sent a really nice text. Mike Polk last minute. Munch. Zach was great. Lima, shout out to him. Seriously. He worked his ass off, and he was Lima. He was great. It was good. And I had an old lady ask me who he was, and I was like, I think he's a co-host on the top morning show in Cleveland radio. I go, but they don't put his fucking name on it. But yeah, that's him. And the lady goes, so he's like, no, I think I know him from somewhere else. And I was like, if you got a younger daughter, he probably knows her. Or you thought about TV before. That's what happens at this thing. Gerard Cherry, just everyone was great. Billy Morris, even though he embarrassed the hell out of me, the Tribe hot dog showed up, which was a hit. I was amazed how many people showed up, or how many people had pictures of them with the hot dogs. People in our neighborhood that were there. It was a really cool night. Appreciate it. But here's the zinger of the night. My wife is awesome. She is a carrier of my household, but also this foundation. She times and does her things a little bit better than her husband does when it comes to pacing oneself. And all she could tell me at the end of the night, after Springer had come back and nothing but love to him and Joe and everybody else at Barley House, she comes to me and she goes, we know we put Dustin Fox's name on it, and he was going to come if he was in town, if it worked out. But it wasn't, and that's fine. We get it. Gerard was in the same situation. He was in town. He was able to come. Zach was – all of our people that come, they know that they don't have to come, but if they're in town and they can, cool. So the lady was talking to Jen throughout the evening, and finally she goes, there's that one bartender. She goes, he looks familiar. I just don't know who it is. And Jen looks with her and kind of squints, and she looks around again, and she's like, And she points at it. She goes, "That's Dustin Fox, right? That's Dustin Fox right there, isn't it?" And Jen, trying to be as sweet as she can be, because the first thing in her mind was, "Fuck no, that's Zach."
Well, that's just proof that my off-season workout plan is going pretty well. So.
No, it was a haircut and the gel you put in your hair. Let's be honest.
No, hey, your wife is good people, despite her taste in men, and her foundation does good things. So a lot of people from different walks of life came out to support that. If you were there, you got to meet some of my closest friends, some of my oldest friends, some of my newest friends, my wife, Alex Moneypenny, a lot of people that are special to me. So it's awesome that you were all there. We thank you for listening to this podcast, for supporting us this way, and all of you who were able to support the foundation. Honestly, it's an awesome night. It's a humbling night, and we're glad you were all part of it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll see you again next year.
Yep. I'm on deadline. So here's the deal. This is the beginning of bye week. We bullshit a lot, as you point out, and we know this. We do have a couple of guests. We're going to try to secure them for later in the week when we can do this. Hopefully, the two of us will be together Tuesday night as the Manchester Panthers try to become just the third team in Jim France's 118-year career to be practicing on Thanksgiving. It's supposed to snow. We'll see. But it's a special time if your team's still playing football. It's a special time for Browns fans. You're actually looking forward to the last 6 games, right? Ohio State, Michigan is around the corner, and it's going to be a really big game. And I saw an Ohio State team that's having struggles. Dre, I think you can take what happened in the second half there, right? You don't have to love the tape, but the fact that there was some resilience and then just some moments where the athletes hit the gas and Michigan State couldn't keep up. You know, it would have been easy to fold the tents there. Yes.
Yeah, but they showed a pulse, and that's a good thing at this time of the year.
Absolutely, absolutely. So listen, those of you that were there and met everybody, those of you that couldn't come, those of you that listen and tweet us or message us otherwise and tell us you listen to the podcast, it means a lot to us, and we want to do some really cool Ohio State, Michigan things and just have some guests on that we're not normally able to do because of our crazy hectic schedule. So we hope to deliver that for you guys. Tuesday night, the Pitt Greensburg Bobcats are back in action, and my brother's ass is on the hot seat. We'll see what happens. Go Bobcats. For Andre, I'm Zach. We'll see you next time on A to Z.
Konnichiwa, Brody.